Nobody wants Steve McLaren. All right, we're Scotty, Motty, welcome back. It's Monday, it's 7 o'clock. Thank you, everybody that's tuned in. Obviously, it's diabolical, the reasons we're going to discuss Ten Hag this evening. Before we get into any of that and the Steve McLaren debate, make sure you press the subscribe and like.
It's a treble winner.
A treble winner, yeah.
Look at what he did at Newcastle and Derby. Fantastic.
And where was he in Holland?
He won the league in Holland, didn't he?
There you go.
There you go.
So
And he picks up the accent,
like
didn't
Ten Hag.
Arsenal, for sure. I watched this thing the other day, right, called Bodies. Have you seen it on Netflix?
I watched the first 3 episodes. I can't get down with like fucking sci-fi stuff.
It's confusing because it's time travel, and is it linear or circular? And it's one of those where if you're not paying attention fully in every single one of the 8 episodes, you get a bit lost. And it was entertaining, and I love Stephen Graham. But I got to the end, and me and Mrs. watched it, and we both sort of went, that was really good. I think I got what happened, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because then I was like, well, what about that? And I was like, I'm not quite sure. So yeah, it was good though.
So all the pieces didn't add up in the series?
They kind of did it a little bit, but then I still have doubts in my mind as to why a certain thing happened and why. Do you know what I mean? It was very confusing because you've got all these 4 different time frames that you're working on, 4 different times. And they're all sort of linked, and then you're going back in time, forward in time. This one's going back. This one splits in 2. Very, very confusing, but entertaining nonetheless.
It's like Ten Hag's football minus the entertainment. Get involved in the chat. What do you think of Ten Hag's position as Manchester United manager? I think we are reaching the point now where a lot more Manchester United fans are going over to my way of thinking. At least a lot of doubt is creeping in. I'm not asking for the man to be sacked, but I'd like a lot more. I'd like some evidence as to why he's the right man for the job, because I believe outside of that Carabao Cup victory, then he'd be gone by now. I just don't think there's any evidence.
You say you're not asking for him to be sacked. Does that mean you want him to stay?
I don't, until there's an alternative.
Right. Okay.
I just don't think there's anyone out there to replace him with, and I think that's probably his saving grace at the moment, because the football is abysmal. 1 minute, he spent 140 mil, is that on Mason Mount and Antony? Neither of them fit to start yesterday. The tactics were ridiculous. How are you not starting Varane? You've got Reguilon as a left back, starts Lindelof. I think we had 4 number 10s on the pitch at one point yesterday.
You never have enough number 10s.
Yeah, Marcus Rashford fell off a cliff. Bruno Fernandes has gone AWOL. And you can start pointing your finger at individual performances, but when it becomes a collective week in, week out, then the Ten Hag's got to take responsibility for that. And we are wanting in so many departments. And I'm sick of this excuse of, well, he's not got a full team. Listen, the players that he's been able to put out at his disposal are capable of better football than they're putting out. And that's the end of the conversation for me, because the games against Brentford, we put out an 11 that should have been put in a better performance. The one against Sheffield United, it was a better 11 than Sheffield United's. It should have been a more dominant performance. And it's just flattering to deceive. Is that the right word?
Flattering to deceive, yeah.
Deceiving to flatter.
No, flattering to deceive. Yeah. You got it right. You nailed it the first time.
Okay.
So it's purely for you, the fact that there's no one out there who you feel is better equipped to come in for the reason to keep Ten Hag at this moment. You don't see anyone out there where you go, there's a manager who could get in who could improve this squad.
I think some of the names I've seen mentioned on social media, like De Zerbi, I think he probably needs to demonstrate more capabilities in the Premier League at Brighton before I take a punt on him. Could be just like another Graham Potter. You know what happened with him?
Well, Potter's actually a name that's been mooted, isn't he?
Yeah, I wouldn't jump for Potter.
No. I think that you can't ignore the Chelsea tenure, and whilst obviously he was dealing with a big mess there, he still didn't deal with it successfully.
No.
You look at Postecoglou, for example, who's gone into a club and done well straight away. Potter never really did that, did he? He didn't go in there and sort anything out at Chelsea. He did okay for a bit, and then the wheels came off.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big... And also, Potter's CV, when he got to Chelsea, I felt it was slightly weak. It was like he'd done okay at Brighton. He'd done well at Brighton when you look at what he had at his disposal. He'd done well. But it wasn't like he'd set the world alight. They finished 16th and 10th, whatever it was. So it was good. I'm not saying it wasn't good, but it wasn't where you go, oh my God, Graham Potter, what he did.
It's a big jump to take another team. Yeah, the Champions League not long before.
Had he, thrown a FA Cup in there or something, you could have gone, well, look at what he did at Brighton, when he won a trophy. So yeah, he was all right, but when I saw the Graham Potter could come in if Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in, I was a bit underwhelmed by that one, to be honest with you. Get involved in the comments in the chat. Let us know what you think. I mean, it does seem to be like a little bit of that's the only. There's a lot of people who are saying stick with manager. The ones that are saying get rid of the manager. The only thing that, or saying they don't have faith in this manager anymore. The only sort of reason I'm seeing them saying, like you're saying, to not get rid of him is because you don't see anyone else coming in and taking over who can do. What you're saying, you don't see anyone who can do a better job, or you don't see anyone long term. What's the?
There's just no names.
Thinking?
There's just no names that I think that I'd bring in and that are capable of building Manchester United what they're up to be. There was a massive amount of expectation on Ten Hag's shoulders, as there should be coming on to take over at Manchester United, regardless of the state of the team that he brought. But we've backed him, and you can't say that we haven't. And we backed him and bought players that he wanted. And I think we're even worse off now than we were when he first started. And that's really disappointing, regardless of injuries. This is a manager that was brought in for the high press, the fluent football. That's what we were all expecting. When we were looking at next tier of managers that were coming up to follow the sort of likes of Pep, Klopp to a lesser extent, Ten Hag was touted as being, maybe not in that tier, but the next one down. On the way up, seemed to be some sort of arc. His career was on the rise. He's come to Manchester United. He looks massively confused in what sort of football he's playing. We've gone back to playing pragmatic football, not too dissimilar to under Mourinho or Moyes. McTominay is the new Fellaini.
I think we were playing that a little bit beginning of last season, though. I think after that Brentford loss, he abandoned his principles then. You cannot tell me that Liverpool game was the way he used to play at Ajax, because it wasn't, was it?
No, that's true.
It was going long and a counter-attack. It was literally Liverpool going forward and us, when De Gea got it, not playing out from the back, hoofing it, Marcus, Sancho and Martial counter-attacking, and we got the win. And if you look at the wins against City to a certain degree, the wins against Arsenal to a certain degree, very much counter-attacking. Look at those goals. Go back and watch a lot of those goals.
But we didn't bring him in for that, though, did we?
No, that's my point is, though, people still say now he's, his style isn't there anymore or whatever. I think he kind of went a little bit pragmatic last season. Now, the sort of counterbalance to that was everyone was saying, well, he can play out from the back completely the way he wants because De Gea's not got that in his locker. Now you get Andre Onana in. Well, that's not changed anything, has it, in terms of the way we're playing?
No. What's the point in spending 65 million on a midfielder to help us play this type of football if you're not going to start him?
Mason
Mount. Why you spend 89 million on a right winger when you don't think he's good enough to play in what is probably one of the biggest games of the season?
I said something like that as well.
In Antony.
Yeah, that confused me, because I do get some of what he's done. Other decisions I don't get. And I said this, we did the preview before the... and I'm going to bring Alexa in a minute, by the way, Alexa. We did the preview, and I will get to your comments. And I was like, I wanted to see in midfield something different. I personally didn't want to see McTominay starting in midfield. Now, people will say, well, Jay scored 3 goals in 4 games, whatever it was. And if you look at where he played when he scored those goals, especially the Brentford race,
he came as a sub.
He came on a sub and was more or less a false 9 almost. He was that far forward. That doesn't mean you should be playing him as a holding midfielder in the next game. That doesn't make any sense to me. That it's nonsense. And I don't think he's been that great when he's played in midfield, McTominay. If you look at the Brighton game, look at the Bayern Munich game in particular.
This is the player we were trying to get rid of in the summer, and now we're pinning a lot of hopes of him in our number 10 position. Make it make sense, Erik.
No, it doesn't. It didn't. I didn't get that one. Also, the Mason Mount. The issue I had with Mason Mount is I didn't want him before we got him. He wasn't on my shopping list. But then you think, okay, the manager wants him. Right, okay, get behind the player. I'll always get behind the signing for Manchester United. But now I'm thinking, well, does he want him?
It's like, don't it remind you of Donny van de Beek?
Yeah, and at least with Donny van de Beek, you could more or less, know that it was a sign he didn't really want. Yeah. Just like the club could get him. Van der Sar made the deal very easy, and I think Woodward and Van der Sar made that deal happen. And Ollie was like, right, okay. It was very much like Fred with Jose. I know you love Fred. I'm not disputing that, but Jose obviously didn't want him because he didn't play him. Yeah. You remember when we lost to Juve at home and he was on the bench, and Jose, because he's dead diplomatic, said, I looked at my bench and I had no one. Nice one, Jose. Yeah, that'll just make everyone feel a lot better. It felt a little bit like that, but it's not, because this is the manager wanted this player. It was obvious. There's no way you can tell me that this was a signing that was thrust upon him the way that Fred was with Jose, or that Donny van de Beek was with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. This was a player that the manager wanted. He's got him. Now, you could argue, some people say, well, he got an injury. He's still bringing him back. Come on, man. Like, he should be ready now to play in a game that, like you just said there, is probably the biggest game of the season so far. I'll go into some of the comments on the way from Alexei. Sam Z says, we shouldn't change Erik Ten Hag until we have a proper director of football. If Paul Mitchell replaces Murtagh, then I'd trust him to replace Erik Ten Hag and build proper structure. Loads of people in the chats as well. Gaz Whelan says, I agree with you, Scotty. Once again, my friend. Peace. Always good to see Gaz in the comments. Jonathan Bosley says, hey, Scotty and Motty, do you think if this Jim 25% stake will affect Erik Ten Hag's job? I think he's on borrowed time anyway, to be honest with you. And I think if a new owner comes in who can have a say in the football side of things, then he is going to question it. And I think Erik Ten Hag's under serious pressure. Witterbird says, you don't need an interim manager. Do you know what? I forgot to tell you, someone said, after the game yesterday, it was pouring down, wasn't it, with rain. So usually I just get off after the game, just go home, but it was that bad. I thought I'm just going to take a breather in hotel football. So I went in hotel football for just 10 minutes just to grab a coffee and wait for it to calm down a little bit. And on the stairs, someone stopped me and you know what he said to me? They went, oh, Scotty, I'm a big fan.
I can see how they got us mistaken.
He said, I've come over from Norway. I love it. I love you guys. I was like, all right, thanks, but I thought I can't bother to correct you. But I was most offended. Seriously, offended? If I was annoyed after the result, I was even more annoyed at that. Alexei, you're usually the voice of optimism / reason / delusion. Give us your thoughts on the current Erik Ten Hag situation. Do you think it's time to get rid, or do you stick with him, or what?
Yeah, it's just all very sad, isn't it, now? I think it's not looking good because the coaching's not having an impact because nobody is improving in the whole team. The results are getting worse. I mean, I've not known a run of home results this bad. And there's no style of play at all. And he's been here a year and a bit. And I think the key difference between Ten Hag and previous managers is that Ole, Mourinho and Van Gaal did not get the players they wanted at all. Like, Mourinho wasn't sat there after coming second going, I want Fred and Lee Grant. Like, that wasn't what Mourinho was thinking.
That's a fair point.
He wanted Maguire. And Ole did not want Pellistri, Ahmad and Van der Beek, did he? And Tellez. And Cavani on the free. Whereas Ten Hag, as you can say what you like about the signings, they're all his signings. Most of them, so much so his signings. Like, they're his mates. Do you know what I mean? They're all his players. Matt Anthony is his player. Martinez, Eriksson, Amrabat, they're all his signings. They've all got his prints on them. And they're all not very good either. So, I don't know. It just feels really, it's at that broken point that we always get to with managers. And I think he's had the best backing out of all of them. And I get completely that the ownership stuff's been bad, but it just makes me think a bit, what would have happened if Jose was given the players he wanted, or Van Gaal was given the players he wanted, or if Ole was just given a DM, what would have happened there? Because they didn't get the players they wanted, and Ten Hag has. And to be honest, it's as bad as it's ever been at the moment. And he'll probably... I think United managers always reach a point where it's so broken they don't seem to come back. They all have that... Like when Ole lost to Liverpool 5-0, you knew that was it. Like, he hung on for a bit, but that was it. Same with Jose when he went on that run. I remember Van Gaal losing to, like, Norwich or something. You knew that was it. So I think Ten Hag's towards the end, and it's a shame because there was good signs in the first season, but there's just no signs of anything now. Other than wanting him to do well and wanting us to succeed, I don't see any reason as to think that he's going to improve us at all, to be honest. But
yeah. That's great points, that though, about the managers in the past that we've got rid of that haven't had their own signings. You can do that with David Moyes as well, because he wanted the likes of Fabregas, didn't he? Ended up only getting Fellaini and Thiago Silva as well that summer.
No, Alcantara.
Thiago Alcantara, and he didn't get them. So in that essence, does that make Ten Hag more accountable for what we're actually putting forward as performances week in, week out? It's like the Glazers or whoever upstairs have got their shit together in terms of giving the manager more ownership on players they want to sign, but it could be that we're giving the wrong manager free reign of the transfer budget. Because I'm not having it that he couldn't have done with some support or someone saying, listen, do you really need...
Gary Neville said it, didn't he? He said, if the kids keep asking for things and the parents keep buying them, do you keep blaming the kids? If you keep buying in what he's asking.
That's what he's gone from one extreme to the other, hasn't it?
Does he need a bit of guidance or a bit of, we heard it with City. They bought in the likes of Sterling and De Bruyne before Pep got there because they knew he'd play. They knew they were getting Pep. They knew these players would play for him and play under him. Well, with Liverpool, I think Salah was a long-term target or a target they had before Klopp. No, not necessarily a Jurgen Klopp target. It was like, look, this kid will fit into your system. He will play well for you. And yet, with what United have done, we've gone like, let's just say now, from one extreme where Ollie just felt got given players or got told he was having these players, the likes of Pellistri and Diallo and all the rest of it. Whereas Erik Ten Hag's gone, I want this player, I want that player. And also, if you look at the nature of some of those signings, Erik Ten Hag wanted Antony in the summer for 35 million. We're told no. We lose to Brentford 4-0, and all of a sudden you've got him. But Ajax have dug their heels in because they know you're desperate, and they're like, well, it's going to be double now. And United went, right, okay, and bought him. Casemiro, 70. Everyone likes Casemiro more. Most people do. £70 million, a 4-year deal for a 30-year-old with a further year option. Do you know what I mean? Is insane. And yet we did that because it's just like there's no system, strategy or structure there. I just want to play devil's advocate slightly with Erik Ten Hag because it's all been we've all criticised him. We all think it's all going wrong. And I don't want to just be all, it's all rubbish and it's all his fault. Because there is a flip side to it. And I completely agree with everything you've said in certain points. But for this season, for me, Martinez is vital to Ten Hag. He's his best signing. He's the signing that he's his first signing as Manchester United manager, I think, and he's integral to a lot of the good stuff we do. The way we play out from the back, he's a leader at the back as well. He wasn't fit when we came back this season. You could tell he wasn't. The Wolves game showed us that. He was subbed at half-time for a reason, and his injuries flared up again, and he's out. He's missing him. He is missing him. Luke Shaw was fantastic last season. I'm not even being his biggest fan. Very important player. If you look at the result against City last season, Luke Shaw had a stormer in that game.
He played centre-back, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he absolutely bullied Erling Haaland. It was a fantastic performance. He's been out pretty much all season. Then you've got the fact you've also had another left-back out in Tyrone Malacia. He's not the greatest, but he does a job. Reguilon you've brought in as a last-minute sort of left-back signing, loanee signing, because you can't get anyone else, and you just need a left-back. I know he didn't play him over the weekend, whether that's fit or whatever. He's had his injury issues. There's a little bit of a thing going on there. Then you look at the other end of the pitch. Rashford scored 30 goals last season, 40-odd goal involvements. He's fell off a cliff. Can you really blame the manager for that? Is that the players just lost form? Is that all on the manager? I'm not so sure, don't know. Casemiro as well, a vital cog in Ten Hag's team last season. You look at that Carabao Cup win that you mentioned earlier that he's been dining out on a little bit, as you said. You don't win that without Casemiro. You don't get some of the results we've had without Casemiro. And he's not been perfect. I've been quite critical of Casemiro, me. Even last season I was. Certainly in terms of some of the games he missed and what have you. But he's obviously an important player. The point I'm getting towards is he's missing key players. He's missing players that are very important to him. And I think, does that not sort of give him a little bit more leeway than what perhaps he's getting?
I think so, yeah. But I think that's where we're up to now. I think he's had a bit of grace because of that up until this point. But I think now any defeat, should we lose against Newcastle on Wednesday, I think he'd be gone by Christmas. Yeah.
I think the Christmas thing, I've heard, Ethan, before you go, can we put the heating back on or turn that down? I'm freezing.
You feeling flush?
No, I'm...
Heating on?
No, I'm cold.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's what I said, putting the heating on.
Yeah. Oh, flush. Oh, yeah, right. I thought you meant like hot flushes.
No.
Sorry, my age. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, well, we've got a thing.
But yeah, I get your point regarding the injuries, but do them injuries mean that you play Bruno Fernandes in the right wing?
I wouldn't. The 11 that I saw against City,
it doesn't
baffled
matter. The City game,
really?
Like, in all honesty, we were saying last week the title's still on and we were going to beat City. But in all honesty, I think both of us agree that we sort of expected to get beat yesterday. Yeah. So this is a knee-jerk reaction to yesterday. It's a defeat that have led up to the Man City. It's the anti-icing on the cake. It's the shit on the bottom of the shoe. Yeah. You know? And then I think that the Brentford game that we scraped over the line, the Sheffield United, I think we've won 7 out of 15 this season. 7 games out of 15 games this season.
United?
Is that right? Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember. I presume so. Sir, I'll take your word for it.
If you look at the...
That makes sense, actually.
If you look at the final season of David Moyes, 10 games in, Moyes have more points than Ten Hag at this stage.
That's unfair, though.
Van Gaal,
I'll give you the Moyes one, I'd expect Moyes to have a very good record when he's managing the reigning champions.
Fine. Van Gaal, he had the same points in his final season and 10 games in.
Okay.
Jose Mourinho, more points than Ten Hag in his final season. And Solskjaer had more points. Ralph Rangnick, I didn't do the math.
Well, he wasn't. I think Ralph Rangnick had a bet. I think he won more games at home
than Ten Hag in his final.
The thing with Ten Hag is, there's still a little bit of me that's I've not give up on him. I'll be honest with you, I haven't.
Based on what though, Jay?
Right, because historically, like, Fergie had a much worse run than this.
But we heard that under Solskjaer. Heard that under Solskjaer.
In his second, I know, but he just did. And I also think that there's a lot of very good players to come back into this team. And I think that also, I don't know, you might call it deluded, you might think just wishful thinking. There's a chance, there's a possibility that once Rasmus Højlund starts getting goals in the Premier League, he'll keep going. I think he's sort of been almost there and thereabouts. You can see there's a player there. It's just not quite happening for him. And I think he's going to kick on. Now, he might kick on next season. It might be next season. It might not happen this season. And by that time, like you said, Erik Ten Hag might be gone. Or he might do. Marcus Rashford, I think it's easy to give up on him and go, he's done. I don't think he's done. I think he needs to take him out of the team, I'll be honest with you. But I think there's still a very good player there. A player that got 20 goals, and then, had a bit of a stink under Rannick, and then 30 goals. So you don't do that if you can't play football. So I think there's a chance he can regain his mojo. So I still feel like there's enough little green shoots there to go, okay, I'm not giving up completely on this manager yet. Now, if we're sat here, and also, there's a lot of games left. What are we in? 10 games in?
10 games in
the league. Do you know what I mean? So I think that if at Christmas we're still sat in 9th or 10th or wherever we are, then yeah, you go, look, we're already out of the top 4 race. We might be not, we're not out of the Carabao, we're out of the Champions League, and it's only the FA Cup left to play for. Yes, you're in trouble, but I'm not quite there yet. I'll be honest with you. I still think with the players he got to come back, the fact he had a good season last season, I think it was a good season finishing 3rd and winning the Carabao. I think that he's still got enough credit in the bank with me as a fan to say I would give him more time. I would. Now, it's not infinite. It's never infinite. But there was a time when I thought Jose Mourinho was the right man for the job. 100% I did. And yet, by the time he got sacked, I was like, well, he's got to go. He's fell out with everyone. Yeah. There was a time when I backed Ollie. I did. Me and you argued about Ollie. And I lost faith in him. Not with the 5-0 against Liverpool that Alexi referenced. It was the draw with Everton where I thought, was it Everton or Villa? I think it was Everton, sorry, yeah, where I thought this felt like Sevilla with Jose, where that result where you go, this ain't going to end well. So there comes a moment where you go, this manager. Sevilla with Jose was one of those. Yep. Everton with Ollie was one of those. I think it was, again, Alexi mentioned Norwich with Van Gaal, but it was that whole month of like Stoke, Bournemouth, Norwich. I'm not quite there yet with Ten Hag. I still have faith in the manager. And, you might ask me in a month and we might have lost to Newcastle, lost to Fulham. You might ask me in 2 weeks, you might have lost them 2 games and I go, okay, I'm not there anymore. But at this moment in time, I am. Yeah. I still feel like he's got enough credit about with me that I'd still stick with him. And yes, you're right, there is an element of, I don't see a candidate out there who goes, do you know what? Because like with Van Gaal, Jose being available made it a different.
Van Gaal doesn't go if Jose wasn't.
No, you're right. Because let's face facts. The club didn't decide to sack Van Gaal in the changing rooms, or the dressing room, after the FA Cup final, which is where more or less they gave him his P45. Yeah. They decided to sack him when Jose got sacked from Chelsea and we lost 3 out of 4 games over Christmas. And they went, actually, we can get in someone who's just won a league title, who's pretty much, the ideal candidate. Let's do it. There isn't that with Erik Ten Hag at the minute. So that helps him. But I still feel like there's a little bit of credit in the bank for me, where I'd say stick with him for a bit longer. Give him the opportunity. I think he deserves the opportunity to get himself out of this mess.
Do you think that the team are on board, though? When you talk about Marcus Rashford's form, and I agree with everybody who's criticised him, is so far so far removed from what he was last season. I don't know what's happened. So you wonder, is anything personality-wise off the pitch? Because the players don't look like they're trying. There's no tracking back. There doesn't seem to be any energy or fight. That was so tepid yesterday. There was for a derby game as well. It was pretty much like once they'd gone 1-0, it was like, all right, well, we've. Do
you know what really worried me about that as well is you can't always look too much into it. And I think Roy Keane was calling it performative from Pep on the touchline. But I was watching it and it reminded me a little bit of Ollie. This. when we lost 2-0 and it was like a training game to them. Do you remember? Ollie's last derby. And Pep, he's shouting at his players, he's this, that and the other, he's shouting instructions, and Ten Hag just seemed a little bit like placid. And then they got their second, I think it was, and Rashford has trudged basically back to the halfway line, just looks despondent, just fuming, just gutted, whatever. And Ten Hag's right near him, don't really say anything to him. There's no Marcus.
For a disciplinarian as well.
Marcus, we're not right. There's none of that. Now you might argue he don't do that because he's pointless or whatever. But I just feel it's slightly worrying because that was when I was thinking, it looks like Marcus has given up, and it almost looks like Ten Hag's given up on this game.
Yeah.
And that concerns me a little bit. And I don't think you can just keep using, the example of City and what they're doing, because obviously they've got 115 charges hanging over the head or what have you. But in Pep's second season, they really kicked on, didn't they?
Yeah.
First season, I think they finished third and didn't win anything. Second season, they really kicked on. You could see there was a real progression there. For us, this second season, he's been far worse than his first season so far. So that is a concern. So I'm not without concerns about Ten Hag. I'm not. I just feel there's still like a little bit of hope and faith. I'll get into some of the comments because loads of people getting involved, and it seems relatively split in terms of opinion. I've got to give a shout out to my missus. She got in the chat to say she won't have any Fellaini slander on this channel. She's Marouane Fellaini's biggest fan.
Put a poll in the chat there, Alexi, about Ten Hag. Do people want Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out?
Yeah. Santa Notch says, between 1968 and 1989, 21 years, we won just 3 FA Cups and got relegated. Laughing emoji. Ed Barrett says it's just a hard job. He should stay until there's an alternative in place. Changing this early is just too reactionary. The poll's gone up. Are you Ten Hag in or Ten Hag out? Pretty easy there. Straight away, I think Ten Hag in has gone 78%, but it's only early days. That could be 5 votes. Excuse me. Ed Barrett says, worst start since Fergie did worse. I think this is our worst start since Ron Atkinson. 86 to 87 was Ron Atkinson's last half a season. Jack Caffrey says Jose was the right man straight after Fergie left. I want to ask you this then, because you can't name a successor to Ten Hag, which I get. It's not easy to do that, and I don't expect you to just pull a name out of your hat. But we've gone with the stable, long-term Premier League established manager in David Moyes.
Yes.
We gave him a 6-year contract. He lasted 8 months into it. We then went, right, he was too inexperienced to handle a job the size of Manchester United. Let's get the venerable, experienced, former Barcelona, former Ajax manager, former Dutch manager, Louis van Gaal, won't be phased, got all that bags of experience, won the Champions League, won titles everywhere. Let's get him in. He lasted 2 seasons, got sacked. We made a mistake. Jose, Premier League winner, the chosen one, double Champions League winner. The chosen one was Moyes. Sorry, I'm getting confused. The special one. Yeah, let's get him in. He lasted 2 and a bit seasons.
Yeah.
We got it all wrong. We need to go with someone who knows Manchester United.
The DNA.
We need to go to the DNA. Let's get someone in who's a club legend, who won the Champions League playing for Manchester United, who's been at the club as a coach, who knows what it means to walk out into the theatre of dreams. Let's get Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He lasted 2 and a bit seasons or whatever. Right. Stop. Let's get the godfather of German football, the Gegenpressing maestro himself. Let's get him in, and let's not only have him as a manager, let's get him in as an interim, and then have him as the director of football or as the advisor after that. He left as soon as his contract ended and didn't stay on. Erik Ten Hag didn't want anything to do with him. I don't think he wanted to stick around. All right, let's get the up-and-coming manager. The guy that's been the flavour of the month, yeah? The one that's been linked with being Pep's successor and Klopp's successor, if over them 2 left. The one that's won 4 or 3 titles out of a possible 3, because one of them was off for COVID. Ajax got to the semi-finals of the Champions League. The proper darling of European football. Let's get him in. It's not working great. Where'd you go next? What sort of manager did you go for next? That's my point. I don't want you to name a name. What is the sort of manager you go for? Because it feels like we've ticked all the boxes and they've all failed.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, but several of them managers were past their best in Jose and Van Gaal, and Moyes and Solskjaer were never up to the job. Yeah. So I don't think, we got them too late. If we got Van Gaal, if Fergie had retired in '94, Van Gaal would have been a great appointment. Like Jose after Ferguson was the right appointment. It was ridiculous.
I agree with
ridiculous
with
decision not to get him. I want a manager to come in and just have a style of play and stick to it and be principled and come in. For me, it feels like Ten Hag's come in and been hired on the basis of the football that he was playing at Ajax. Now, I've seen quotes today about him turning around and saying, well, this Manchester United players can't play the football that Ajax is playing. And I put on my Twitter before, so the likes of Fernandes can't play the same football as Tadic. Is that what you're telling me? It's the manager's job.
That's a good angle to look at it, because I think too many people have got into this thing of he's bought all them players. No, that's not the point. I agree with the point you're making. Because for starters, he hasn't bought all those players. He's bought some of them, but not like it's not like he's bought the entire Ajax squad. I think he's got Onana, he's got Anthony, he's got Martinez, who obviously is injured. I'm missing someone. I'm forgetting someone else who he had. Oh, and Donny van der Beek he inherited, who's also been injured. But yeah, I get your point there. Well, can you not get sort of to play like Daily Blind or whatever? Like, is there not a way of recreating what you had?
That's what you were hired for. That's what you were hired for. That's what you were hired for that football.
I understand your point now.
So I don't understand if we wanted to keep a pragmatic manager, then we could have kept Jose.
I kind of defended him a little bit on that in the sense of, is he just getting a little bit defensive there with his comments? Because it sounds to me like he's almost like his head fell off a little bit with that interview. I don't know. I think he was just being a little bit like, I can't do that. No, that's just not realistic. I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly kind.
Do you think he seems like he's breaking slightly?
A little bit. I'm getting slightly.
He's rattled, don't I?
Yeah, because he's been one thing that you found, and I've only done a couple of press conferences with Erik tonight. I'm not like going to sit here and say I'm an expert on him, but I thought he had a fairly good approach to it. And I did pre-season, which isn't always accurate as well, because pre-season's usually quite relaxed. The season's not started, you haven't had any dramas. Also, the first pre-season, it was his first one, so no one had, no one was critical. His second one, we just won the Carabao and finished third, so everyone was quite happy with him. But he had what I thought was a pretty good balance of being jovial and friendly and being quite stern at times and almost sort of monosyllabic when he needed to be.
He shot it down.
It was, he didn't overshare. So he was, because most managers at United have gone through it. I've seen all the managers post Fergie, have been the press conferences. Jose was great when he was winning. He was ace. Like, people think he was horrible, and he wasn't. He was great. When the results went in, he turned into a lunatic. Van Gaal arrived like a bit of a loony and carried on being a loony until he left, but there was different shades to it. Moyes just looked like a rabbit in headlights. But I thought Van Gaal had I keep saying Van Gaal. Ten Hag had a good approach, and he looked like he had something about him in the way he handled the press. It was all right. Now, though, it's beginning to look like he's unravelling a bit.
Yeah.
Like, some of his comments aren't being well received. And what happens with you as a manager is once you start going down that road and you start making comments that are ridiculed or questioned, it gets your back up. So you start acting a certain way. The press talk to each other. That press pack is like a pack of wolves. And they will.
Yeah, because they know what they know what to go at now.
They send a bit of blood, and it's like, right, we're on you. He's losing the plot here, and they'll pounce, and it'll be one story after another, all these different papers where people question you, and all of a sudden you're a manager who's, a minute ago everyone was loving me.
Yeah.
I was, I'd won a trophy for the signing in 6 years. I finished third. My signings weren't being questioned. Now everyone thinks I don't know what I'm doing. So it becomes this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, or however you want to call it, where you act a certain way, which increases your negative press, which makes you act a certain way even more so.
Yeah, and he's never, from what I know, come under this sort of pressure in his entire career, because he was successful at Ajax, wasn't he? I think he was on like 3 out of 4 seasons. He was there, so he'll never have been like under the spotlight like this.
He got there. They hadn't won a title for 4 years, I think, when he got there.
Yeah.
And he won a title every year he was there, other than the COVID year, when they were still top of the league when the COVID year made the league wrap up early.
Yeah.
And also, they got to the semi-finals of the Champions League.
So he's never, ever had this amount of criticism or dealt with the pressure of what he is now managing.
He's never dealt with that pressure anyway.
No.
You're right.
Managing this biggest club in the world, going through what they are at the moment, regardless of whether you look upstairs or on the pitch where the problems are. So that's a huge amount of weight, and it will be quite telling to see how he handles it himself, because so far it does seem a little bit, that was very sort of bitchy, like, well, it's not me, I can't get these players. It felt very much like that.
That's what I mean.
It's not my fault.
Yeah, I love that little head action as well. No, I agree. I felt he got defensive.
Yeah.
I felt he got completely and utterly defensive, rather than him saying things that I mean, I know you can argue they're both the same thing, but I felt it was more of that than him saying, well, I can't, you know, it's not him thinking that. I think it was him just going, no, let's not go down that route. Alexi, I'm going to wrap up shortly, but just give us your thoughts on Erik Ten Hag and his comments, just what you've made of them. Does that worry you? Because David Moyes was the master of putting his foot in his mouth. You know, we need to improve on passing, tackling, shooting and dribbling.
He wasn't wrong when he said Man City is the club we should try and aspire to, though. He was
just 7 years early. Too early. What have you made of his comments? Are you worried?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to defend Ten Hag, what can he really say in the sense that he probably wants to kind of put on a front that everything is fine to kind of shield himself. Because he's probably trying, I think what he's probably trying to do is he doesn't want to go full Mourinho and go, everything's awful, but he's still kind of, you know, got that demeanour. I mean, it's like Ollie went too far, still being positive towards the end, didn't he? He was kind of still smiling and trying to put a positive spin on it. And I remember an interview where Ollie smiled and he went, oh, sorry for smiling. It was actually really sad. And then Jose went the other way of going, I basically think all these players are dickheads and I hate them and I hate everything about them. So you need somewhere in the middle. But I think with the injuries thing, I completely get that you need all your players fit to play well, but I think people forget with Ollie, he beat City 3 times in a season, right? And like Dan James and Pereira and all those players were starting in all of those games.
Yeah.
And Solskjaer always got mocked. People said Solskjaer was a bad tactician or whatever. But he wasn't, because he kept winning these games. Same with PSG. Twice he beat PSG away. He beat City all these times. And every single time, his players were way worse than the team he was facing. It's not like we played City and our players were as good as theirs or PSG's. If you look at the team we beat PSG with, Bailly was at right back. I think it was like Young, Pereira, McTominay and Fred was the 4 across the middle. That's woeful, but he still won. And Van Gaal did it. I remember we beat Arsenal. I think it was one of Rashford's first games. And it was just a load of kids. It was like Varela and Rashford. And it was just a completely random team. And he won. And sometimes your job as a manager is to get the best out of the players and do something. And people, the framing of it is Ten Hag is a really, really good tactician. And everyone says Solskjaer was just a vibes manager. But Solskjaer's away form, he won 23 in a row. Ten Hag is yet to win an away game against the top 9 teams. He's yet to, in my view, win a game that you don't expect him to win as well.
Yeah, I've always said that.
Yeah.
I think I said it on Paddock and on air.
So I think that's another big factor, that you look at Ten Hag and you go, well, okay, granted there's injuries, but I remember Solskjaer getting loads of really good results when you didn't expect him to. Do you remember those times we used to just randomly play a Champions League game you think you have no chance of and we just win?
There's not a flip side to that though, Lexi, because we lost to Istanbul and they got relegated, and we lost to some awful teams under Ole.
Yeah.
And also, once COVID ended and the crowds are back in, the results went to dirt. And I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So I get your point on the City and the PSG, but isn't part of the problem with the likes of Van Gaal and with the likes of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, whilst Ten Hag up until this season has beat everyone he expects him to, I think with Ole and Van Gaal, we didn't. We lost to Norwich and Southampton and Bournemouth. And
you're just swapping the teams, aren't you?
Do you know what I mean?
We beat teams we weren't expecting.
That was my issue with that.
Yeah.
Was when it went wrong.
Ten Hag's losing to both now, though, isn't he?
Yeah, now he is. Now he is,
to
100%.
My opinion is, I think we're playing worse football than we did under Ole Solskjaer, and I didn't think Ole Solskjaer was the right manager for the job. Therefore, I can't stand by and say Ten Hag's the right for the job, but I'm not seeing the evidence for it.
Just before we wrap up, the poll, Ten Hag in 81%, so obviously out is 90%. So we've still got the backing, certainly, of the hundreds of people that are watching. Also, as well, I've put a link into our Patreon. Go and check out that if you can. We appreciate your support. Pay a few quid, but you get a little bits and pieces as well. Nick B in the super chat says, this fan base has the resilience of a Poppadom. In 18 months,
Curry House is from.
Look at the SHIT he's had to deal with. Even Arteta was kept on after finishing 8th FFS. Game you're not expecting to win. Cast your minds back to last year when we drew Barcelona. Everyone said we lose short memory. No, I don't. I've said this a million times, Nick. I expect us to win every game at home, including against Barcelona, including against Manchester City, including against Liverpool, including against Arsenal. And we did win those games, but I expect us to win every home game. You might think that's deluded. That's just I do. I think United should be winning our home games. Obviously, different this season. We can't even beat Palace and seems like at home. One final thing, just before we wrap up quickly. Matthew Perry passed away over the weekend. Obviously, on this podcast, we talk about United, we talk about addiction, we talk about mental health. Really sad news. Matthew Perry, I think you shared a clip from Scotty, and we've all commented on socials about one of the biggest voices out there in terms of a celebrity speaking up about his own addiction and, his struggles with addiction and how he was sort of handling it and stuff like that. And it's sad from the world of entertainment, obviously a fantastic actor and part of one of the, the most successful comedy shows ever. But also I think it's sad from the point of view of someone who was such a prominent figure in speaking up about addiction and being honest and open about it and saying, it's okay to struggle and, these are the things you can do to try and help yourself.
I think I started reading his book, which I highly recommend for a number of reasons. Brilliant read. It's quite a difficult read as well at times. But from that, you get the sense, and I think he says it, that whilst he recognises, he's obviously written this before he passed away, that once he does pass away, he knows he'll be remembered for friends, but he'd much prefer to be remembered for the work that he's done in the recovery industry. And I think he's helped so many people through that, and it is a tragic ending. Amazing actor, but also a beacon for others not to follow in his paths. It's a dark road that he went down, but rest in peace, Matthew Perry.
Well said. Big thank you to Alexei, as always, for producing and contributing. Big thank you to everyone who got involved in the chat. Really good chat, that, really respectful as well, which is amazing.
We have lovely
we do, don't we?
viewers.
On Paddock now, they've had death threats by now, and we all would have.
Well, we don't, because you're lovely, and you're extra lovely if you're pressing subscribe.
And subscribe, yeah. So go and hit that subscribe button.
You're not lovely if you're not liking and subscribing.
Wow, there you go. Make sure you are sharing as well. I'm Jay Motty. That's been Scotty. That's been Alexei. This has been Scotty and Motty. Thanks for watching.